So resilience is a superpower. So people that have resilience, when you watch professional sports, one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot, like if you're watching football players, what's his completion percentage as a quarterback? What, is what's his win-loss record? But if you listen to the coaches over and over, and particularly the 49ers, who because my wife is an acupuncturist for them, and because I have been a fan for 50, 60 years, I pay attention to what's happening. And this coaching staff that they currently have, I believe, is one of the best coaching staffs in football ever, at least one of the two best on the 49ers. And over again, when you hear their interviews, they talk about resilience. Now, they may use other terms, but they're talking about resilience. And so they drafted a kicker this year, and they got a lot of flack for it because they drafted him pretty high, and kickers usually aren't that important that you spend a lot of capital on them, but they did. And it turns out after the fact, they actually scouted, interviewed, watched 27 kickers before they decided to draft the kicker that they did. And one of the things that just really stood out to them is when they went to the pro day. That's where the scouts go to the college and watch the players do whatever they're doing. When they went to the pro day for this kicker, he had two horrible centers, the person that hikes the ball to them, and they were bouncing it and rolling it, and it was just a nightmare. But instead of giving up, instead of saying, oh my God, I can't do this, this is unfair, he just kept kicking. And that was the most important factor. Now, he had a good leg, he kicked really well, he was very accurate. But what pushed them over the top into drafting him with a premium draft choice was his ability under pressure, his resilience. When things went bad, he got tougher. He didn't get anxious. He didn't panic. He just went about his job. He focused. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong and what had gone wrong, he focused 100% on what it was that he was attempting to create. What was the job that he was there to do? And so this ability to adapt and overcome adversities and setbacks and emerge stronger, right? And so that's the superpower. Now, I call it a superpower for several reasons. Most people that you see, read about that have done great things in the world had the superpower of resilience. They didn't all have it made. I mean, that's a old wives' tale, a story, different types of privilege, and some people do have more privilege than other, but nobody makes it without resilience. I don't care who you are. I mean, you get people that come from billionaire families that fail miserably. They're in drug rehab all the time. In fact, that's probably more the norm than the exception. The people coming from those very privileged environments often do the worst. So along that line, there are several studies that show that optimism predicts greater health and longevity. And this one study that I was looking at was even in cancer patients. Patients with cancer live longer, more often kicked the cancer, and it went into remission. And they had greater happiness in their life when they were optimistic. Now, I'm talking about rather unreal optimism, okay? And so they divided people into three categories: the pessimist, the quote realist, and the optimist. The pessimist saw the glass as half full and, oh my God, it's never going to be more than that. We're going to run out of whatever the drink is really soon. And the realist, it's like, well, it's half full and okay, we'll see what happens. And the optimist, it's half full. Isn't that awesome? And they're looking at all the positivity of it. So some people call that unreasonable. I call it resilience and a superpower. So be willing to look a little silly sometimes and be optimistic. So the glass is half full. So positive thinking. And this isn't a woo-woo thing. This isn't something that's like way out there. This is solid science. Believe me, it's solid. Positive thinking increases dopamine, right? one of the primary reward chemical. It's the thing that is one of the primary, or the chemical that's one of the primary causes us of our having enthusiasm, of our having energy to take on projects, of our getting joy out of finishing projects. Serotonin, which tells us that we're loved. It helps create relationships. And then oxytocin, which is the lifeblood of intimacy, right? It's what bonds mommy to baby while baby is nursing or being held. It's also what bonds couples. If you look deeply into someone's eyes for a certain period of time, it increases oxytocin. And then love happens, or closeness happens, or attraction happens. Sex. Men who have orgasm have 3 to 4 times the oxytocin increase. Women that have orgasm also have an oxytocin increase. It's not quite as dramatic. I didn't make up the rules. But so you get increases in dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and those ever loving endorphins, those chemicals that make you feel good, that create the runner's high, the workout high, etc. So all of these get better just from looking at things differently. Oh, look at that glass. It's half full. Thank God I was really thirsty, and now I get all of that liquid that I can drink, as opposed to, oh God, you know, I really wanted 2 glasses and I'm only getting half. This is horrible. So the great lesson of life is never give up and to be optimistic.